Hi guys, welcome to another podcast from me, myself and mind. Myself, Dominic Borsbury and Dan Edwards. Today we're talking to a coach, Henry Malcolm, who is on a mission to fight the shame culture. After spending around 5 years pushing himself to his absolute limits in search of growth, he ended up feeling burnt out. And after taking a step back, he began to realise how much of his productivity was fueled by shame. He has now learned to slow down and enjoy his life just as he is. So now he specialises in helping other burnt out individuals to let go of their own pressure, slow down, be more present and authentic within themselves. I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy this podcast entitled Less Pressure, More Presence. Thank you.
Hi Henry,
Hello.
how have you been?
I'm pretty good. There's a lot going on at the moment, and it's a pretty weird time. But given the circumstances, I think I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, I can imagine it's a strange time for everyone, isn't it? But with things starting to open up, I'm not sure about yourself, but have you seen like a change in people's mood? Because where I work, in a gym, people are just so happy to be there. People are friendly. It really seems like everyone has got sort of a positive mindset at the minute.
Yeah, I agree. I'm walking through villages and towns with actual people, with the shops open again, and being able to it just has a different feel. It doesn't have that boarded up shopping centre feel when all the shops are closed. It has more of a and even if people aren't in the shops, it's just the shops being open feels more alive.
Yeah,
it's that human connection, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's more natural to all of us. Henry, I know you work with a variety of clients. What sort of clients do you work with, and do you think that shame, or maybe calling people out, is becoming more and more commonplace, and it's sort of shame is used to fuel people?
Yeah, so I work with burnt out individuals predominantly. So individuals who are just tired of feeling a relentless pressure to be needing to do more, and actually want to be able to just slow down and feel enough, feel able to just be rather than constantly needing to do. That's the crux of what I'm doing.
Fantastic.
And shame is very pervasive in our culture. It goes back generations. I think the way that our culture and economy is structured is very shame-based. It's very productivity-based, and productivity has its place. But when we use it as the metric for our worth, we lose our humanity, because suddenly we're like machines. And it becomes about how much we can produce. And then when you have messy human emotions like sadness and anger and happiness and grief and frustration and anxiousness and whatever else, the full human experience, they interfere with productivity. So we're then put in a place where we start to see sadness and anger as things that need to be avoided or controlled, and we need to use willpower to suppress them in order to be more productive. And then that suppression is just awful. That's
a brilliant answer. Do you think that we've been conditioned to become, we mentioned that before we started the podcast, that we're consumers, aren't we? So do you think this shame is possibly coming from corporations? We won't name them, showing us that we haven't got the latest trainers or the latest Gucci watch or Boss watch. Do you think that's a big part of it?
And maybe you need to become this certain individual and become so productive so that you can get that product, that stuff. Yeah.
I don't know if it's even, I wouldn't say it's necessarily like an organized agenda. It feels to me like it's just so deeply embedded at this point that we've been run this way for generations, and the way that the system works, it's actually quite difficult to detach yourself from that. Because once you've been conditioned to work like that, it just becomes about being more productive and gaining more stuff, and it's difficult to actually take a step back and reprogram the way that you're actually functioning when all you've known is shame. I get like quite something that I get quite a lot with people is that there's almost a fear of letting go of the shame. There's like, we're so used to using shame to function and to get things done that the idea of letting go of that shame to push us to do more is almost like scary, because it's like, well, what would I do? Like, what if I'm using this desire to be rich and famous as to push me, and what if I didn't need that? Would I just do nothing? Would I just sit around all day and not want to do anything? So I think there's almost a fear to let go of that shame.
I suppose, like Joe Dispenza says, the body can become addicted to any substance or any chemical within the body, an emotion that you're giving it on a regular basis. So if all you know is shame and that's all you've been fueled by, then to let go of that is going to feel very uncomfortable.
It's going to be, uncomfortable. And I think shame, it's like an identity, isn't it? In cultures, genders, across societies, shame, like you said, is almost individualistic. It's driven by ourselves as well, not just, as you said, not perhaps an agenda. Once it's within us, we need to follow that through, don't we? The complex, as it were.
And then I suppose, like you were saying, it's not just individual either, it's generational. And if that's all you've ever known and you've been programmed with, it's so hard to break that cycle.
So hard.
Can you talk to us a little bit about your story? Because I know that, you've spoke to me a little bit about how you were using shame to fuel your productivity. So what did that look like, and what happened there?
Well, shame was a big component in my upbringing. Like, my parents did their best, and I love my parents, but they never learned how to love themselves unconditionally. And so they were only able to provide that conditional love. And when I left home, when I was about 20 when I left home, I got very into personal development. I got very into productivity. I was productivity junkie. I was reading all the books. I was trying all the tips, like Tim Ferriss, Grant Cardone, like Tai Lopez, all the rest of it, like following all the techniques and always trying to improve and optimize myself. And this, for about 5 years, every part of my life was about optimization. I was tracking calories, like I was getting up as early as I could, like I was going to the gym every single day, like I was trying to find ways to read faster and consume more information, and like just always trying to be more and more effective. I couldn't even watch a Netflix show because it didn't feel productive. I was like, if I was watching that, I could be reading a book. And I enjoyed a lot of it. It was good fun. But there was always this feeling in the back of my mind of, I'm not doing enough. And I was pretty much at the threshold of what was humanly possible to be doing at that point. Like, I was doing so much that it wasn't possible for me to do more. And yet I still had this nagging feeling of not being able to do enough. And it was actually the corona pandemic that brought on the realizations of what was fueling that, because I was working in the events industry alongside the coaching, and that was suddenly gone. I was on government support, so I wasn't working anymore. I was working on coaching, but not like a day-to-day job. So suddenly I was forced to slow down. Everything was closed. And I came to this realization that I was like, why am I pushing myself so hard? Like, why do I feel a need to reach these heights? If I make this big business and optimize all these parts of my life one day, am I going to feel enough, or is this just going to carry on forever? And as I started to slow down, I realized how much my behavior had been driven by shame. Like, it was actually easier for me, and this is where I have an issue with the idea of willpower, because for me at that point, getting up at say 5 a.m. to and like doing things all day, to other people that might have looked like, wow, he has so much willpower, he's just doing things all the time, how does he motivate himself? But to me, I'd so much shame that it would have been more difficult for me to say, I'm going to have a day off, I'm going to have a week off and just watch Netflix and just chill out. It would have been more difficult for me to do that than for me to get up at 5 and go to the gym and then study and read. So that's where I have a real issue with willpower, because my drive, we can't look at something on the surface and say what is driving that. And for me, I was driven by shame.
I can really resonate with that, because I mean, obviously I get up early and I do the cold therapy, you know, and there is this pull within you to want to be busy all of the time. And I do resonate with what you're saying there, that if you're not, then you've got this thing within you that's saying, well, what could I be doing? And I mean, you know, I've got to be honest, yeah, we do have to be productive and we do have to do things that we don't always want to do to get where we want to get. But is that coming from shame? And, you know, there would be no issue in stepping back sometimes. But I really resonate with that.
So did that impact to you in a real negative way, Henry? Did you, because we're looking at, you know, did you feel burnt out? Do you mind me asking?
I was definitely burnt out. There was a point, like, I was still growing my business. At that point, I was accountability coaching, and my focus was on helping people to be more productive. Yeah. Like, that's what, I know, ironic. Like, that's what my coaching was all about. Like, it was all about using these tools, basically using shame tools to help people to push themselves, like a fear of regret. And fear of regret was a big driver for me. To push myself to get more done and to help push others to get more done. So there was it had a real impact, because there was a real, like, okay, there was a month or two where I just didn't work on the business. I played video games for the first time in probably 10 years. I was just binging. I was on Rocket League and Fall Guys, just playing, and I was eating a lot of ice cream, and I let myself just have that space to actually process. And I'm still processing. The last 6 months to a year has meant an awful lot of processing emotions. Like, I didn't realize beneath all this shame, because the shame is ultimately a protection mechanism. Like, you can go a level deeper than the shame. The shame is trying to keep us safe by keeping us, trying to keep parts of ourselves hidden, because we've learned that those parts will lead to us being rejected. We haven't learned unconditional love. We see love as conditional, even if it's subconscious. And because of that, we are forced to hide parts of ourselves that we feel subconsciously would lead to us being rejected. So I didn't realize how much pain and sadness and anger there actually was beneath the surface, that I actually had to start letting in and processing.
How did you, if you mind me asking, when you started to process that, did it affect you in a negative way?
There were days where I would days or weeks where I would just cry a lot, cry all day. Anger, a lot of anger. I wouldn't recommend getting into this work if there is a lot of productivity stuff you need to get done, because I'm not going to pretend it does affect that. Am I less productive in the traditional sense now than I was then? Like, when I was into the productivity stuff, you could probably say yes. But now I'm actually able to experience being human. and experiencing the full human experience, and to actually lie in bed or go for a walk and actually appreciate what is around me, and appreciate a day where I don't get so much done. To not get to the end of the day and feel like, oh, I haven't done enough tasks, so today was a bad day. Because ultimately, however much you achieve in life, I mean, we'll die in the end, and it doesn't really. There's no point in having all these massive businesses if you didn't enjoy the journey. If you can have the, ultimately it's about the emotions. We want to achieve all this success because we want the emotions that come with it. And if we can experience those emotions now, just by going for a walk, just by being with our pets, or just by sitting and chatting with a friend, as we could running a multi-million-pound business, then why do we need to do that? We can still do that if that brings us joy, but we don't need to do that in order to experience those feelings.
So do you think overall in society that, you know, as we said, we've been conditioned to put all of our self-worth, it's almost like all your money on black, you know, gambling. All your money on this self-worth, on productivity. You've got to be productive on your self-worth, and society's conditioned to be target-driven, would you say?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Everywhere you look, it's all target driven. Social media is massive for this as well, and really fuels this. I see endless posts with this sort of culture of like pushing people, this, do you want it badly enough? This idea of not wanting. I will never ask a client I will never suggest to a client that they don't want it badly enough. I mean, it's just nonsense. Like when we consciously want to do something, but when we consciously want to do something, but we're struggling to do it, that means subconsciously something is pulling against it. Something is sabotaging us, but it's not for the purposes of sabotaging us. It's because something inside us, this doesn't feel safe to. Some learned experience in the past tells us this is unsafe. And the typical approach is when we face this resistance inside us, willpower, brute force, you need more productivity techniques, you just don't want it badly enough. And just don't want it badly enough is classic shame. It's classic, oh, if you just wanted it more, you could get this done. You just don't want it. And then that is something where, as an individual, if you want to do something and you keep hearing, if you wanted it badly enough, you'd be able to do it, and you still can't do it, that creates this thing in your brain of, oh, maybe I'm just not good enough. Maybe I just don't want it as badly as other people. Why is that? And in actuality, there's something in there that needs exploring and actually treating with compassion and care. And when you do that, you can come back into alignment, and you're no longer trying to fight that part of yourself that is resisting. You can actually move towards your goal without having to fight to get burnt out.
Brilliant answer. I think it's about also being authentic. Do you think that social media is almost perpetuating this validation, external validation that we're all looking for to some degree? Do you think social media has magnified it out of all proportion?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Because social media I don't think social media changes humans. I think what it does is maybe it does in terms of things like, say, attention span and sort of increasing things, but it's not fundamentally changing us. It's more about the fact that it exacerbates certain traits. So things are available more quickly. You do have more access to this dopamine. Like, you have there's very clear means of comparison. Number of followers. It's very easy to compare to someone else. It's not something like looks that can be somewhat subjective. There's a number of followers. You can look at someone and be like, they have 1,500 followers. I have 1,000. I'm not as good as them, or I want to be better than them. I'm not going to pretend I don't get influenced by the numbers. As watching my following grow is cool. I can't pretend I am affected by that, and I don't want to be, but I would be lying if I said it doesn't affect me at all.
I was going to say, it's almost like a natural thing to look outside of our family for support. Do you think? So it's almost like a family out there, isn't it? Supporting us. It can be a good and a bad way.
Yeah.
Which you're talking about,
I think, yeah, I definitely think, I know what you mean. You know, it's not changing us, it's exploiting us.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's completely natural to want validation from other people because, you know, we need to fit into the tribe. But that tribe is growing beyond what we are used to and what we are sort of capable of processing.
That's a big point.
Inner part of us that's needing to be wanted by others. You know, I won't lie, I check who's looked at my stories. Has anybody liked what I put? You know,
yeah.
If I haven't got a like within a few minutes, I'm like, oh, should I take it down? Do people not? And it's like really, you need to have a word with yourself, and you're like, I put that there because I want to help people, and also that's what I thought at the time, so just put it there. But then the other part of you is like, oh, we need to take it down, you know? And it's just ridiculous. It is just exploiting those vulnerabilities.
Yeah, totally.
And you know, you were talking about, I think you spoke about earlier on, you were talking about Amazon. We mentioned that, didn't we? You talked about Amazon, a company. And like Dan's saying, you're both saying, this is great, you know, looking at this from a different perspective, that we may possibly being, our natural emotions are being exploited. And I one straight away, impatience. I've ordered choose same day delivery, you know, and sort of meals that arrive within 5 minutes, you know. So I think we've become consumers to such a point that, you know, we want everything in the now. We want it, you know, yesterday. That driving impatience, that leads to an impatience within relationships and within society.
Yeah, definitely. I think that definitely compounds the issue because it makes it much more difficult to deal with the human emotions, because when you're angry or you're sad, that needs its space to actually be processed. And but being angry or being sad doesn't tend to help you get more done. Like, it doesn't help you be more productive. So you feel this pressure of, like, even if you, like, I see it a lot on my page with the kind of questions I'm asked and the kind of comments I get. These are already people at a stage that realize there are suppressed emotions and they want to process those emotions. But it's still coming from a place of, okay, but how can I get this done? It's like, okay, I want to process the emotion, but I need to fit it into this box, or I need to get past it so that I can get back to being productive. I want to give it its space, but not too much space. And that's not what the human experience is. I don't want people to help people. I don't want to help people process their emotions just so that they can be more productive. I want to help you. It can have that impact. You can be more productive because you're not butting your head against a wall and, like, shaming yourself. But I want to help change the entire metric. I want people to ditch the productivity metric completely as the metric for their self-worth, and actually use humanity, presence, actually experiencing their full life as the metric for how much they're living. And productivity is only one part of that, but it's very interesting how even people coming into the healing space, even people coming at the emotions, they're still coming at it from that place of, okay, I want to process the emotions, but still with this metric. So that's a big thing I talk about, and a big thing I'm trying to help raise awareness of.
And I like what you were talking about earlier about how somebody can, if we bring it right back, consciously want something, but subconsciously their emotions are, you know, preventing them from doing that. Can you explain to us a little bit more about the subconscious mind, and, you know, how certain emotions can get buried or stuck within us, you know, and how also we seem to focus a lot more on the negative. Explain that a little bit.
So, well, if we look at shame and we take it back to, it goes back to childhood. It goes back even deeper because you go through your parents, their parents, etc., have it passed down. As a child, you are there ready to express your emotions. Like very young children, they don't lie. They just express things. They say things that aren't socially acceptable. They'll just be honest. They'll be like, no, I don't like what you're wearing. No, you don't look good. You look tired. Things that aren't socially acceptable, they'll be loud. If they're sad, they'll cry. If they're angry, they'll yell in a restaurant. Like they don't care. They're just being authentically human.
Yeah.
But as a child, to fit into society, the parents will restrict the child from doing those things. But if the child is yelling in a restaurant, the way most parents will deal with that is to tell them to stop. Like it would just be they might yell at them, they might just get angry with them, they get frustrated with them, they'll tell them to stop. And as a young child, dealing with your emotions, your parents, you depend on your parents for survival. Like as a young child, you depend on your parents for survival. All you know is you need your parents to love you in order to survive. Like it's life or death. That's why getting lost in a supermarket, that's a life or death. That's terrifying for a child because it's like their caregiver's gone. And it's the same with the emotions. When a parent tells a child that they're bad for yelling, or when the child is upset and the parent tells them, oh, it's not that bad, cheer up, like it's not a big deal. The child learns that those emotions are not okay, that there is something wrong with expressing those emotions, that expressing that anger is something that their parents don't like and is bad. And if they're to express that anger, they risk losing their parents' love. So, and by extension, death, because they rely on their parents' love for survival. So it then becomes subconsciously, these emotional states become something that is not okay for them to experience. And subconsciously, we internalize this message that expressing those parts of ourselves will lead to us being rejected. So fast forward into adulthood, we're still carrying this around. Even though we're now adults and we now express ourselves, most of us aren't aware of most of the subconscious things that are going on and most of the ways in which we are actually restricting ourselves to make ourselves more socially acceptable. Because all we've learned is this conditional love. We don't know how to unconditionally love ourselves or other people. So we're forced to restrict these parts of ourselves, because if we're to show them to someone else and be vulnerable, then they could reject us. And then
Sorry, I chipped in then. Do you think also the environment, the environment has a massive impact, both positively and negatively on our mindset?
Massive. Yes, massive. The people that are around you, because this is the thing with processing emotions as well. Like this is a big part of the coaching that I do, is providing a space where these emotions that have never been validated for these people, they have a space. Mine is a space where if you turn up to a session and you can just cry. Like I've cried so many times with my own coach. I'll be talking about something and I'll just cry. Like, or I get angry, or maybe they don't like something that I'm saying, or maybe they don't like the way that they're being coached. They can say that to me. It's an honest space to actually express this honest, authentic, maybe uncomfortable stuff that neither of us really want to be in that situation, without that being thrown back in their face as something negative. They can actually just experience that actually being validated. And this is why the environment is very important, because the reason we have the shame in the first place is being invalidated in our upbringing by parents, having those emotions invalidated. And if we're around other people, we tend to take that into adulthood. If we've had our emotions invalidated, we'll tend to invalidate other people's emotions without even realizing. And that can be something as subtle as someone coming to us sad and us trying to cheer them up. And maybe they don't want to be cheered up. Maybe they just want to be able to sit there in the sadness, and for us to be like, I see you. This is hard. If they're coming to us, if we take it to an extreme, grieving over a lost relationship or a dead relative or something, they in that moment, they may just want us to just be with them and acknowledge that, yes, losing this relationship, this breakup is a big thing. But what we'll often do in that moment is we don't know how to deal with that emotion. We're like, oh, we never learned how to be allowed to be sad. So someone come to us sad, and we'll be like, oh no, I need to fix this. Like there's plenty more fish in the sea. Like we got to get you out there dating again. Like you'll see, everything happens for a reason, and that's invalidating that emotion again, and it compounds the idea to them that it's not okay to be sad.
Yeah.
We've involuntarily invalidated their emotion and compounded it. So getting out of an environment and having people around you that will see your emotion and not try to fix it.
Yeah.
Not try to fix it, just hold space for you, just actually be present with you and see you and see, like, I see that you're sad. I'm here. I'm here for what you need. You can ask people what they need as well. If you don't know, it can be a difficult thing to do. So you can just ask people, what do you need from me? Are you looking for advice? You just want someone to vent to? Do you want?
Just as a listener, that's absolutely fantastic that, we need a safe space, don't we? I'm just thinking of a quick analogy. When you're on the treadmill running like mad, when you come off, your breathing rate, your respiratory rate is through the roof, isn't it? That's natural. That's natural to everybody. So, but it's not natural for everybody to feel their emotions. So you need that coach or environment that allows you to absorb, sort of feel through the emotion rather than shutting it down. You wouldn't say to somebody, come off a treadmill, stop breathing.
Yeah.
It's almost the same, isn't it? It could almost be as detrimental.
Yeah, it is very detrimental. It is very detrimental. When you suppress these emotions, suppressing emotions doesn't get rid of them. When you use a technique to control your anger and outthink it, all you're really doing is suppressing it, and then it comes out in nasty ways. You snap at people, you're impatient, like you struggle to get things done, and it can lead to bad things.
I like what you were saying, don't be the fixer. Because, I'm a mental health first aid instructor, and when I'm delivering the courses, there's a really good part when we're talking about, how to show empathy, not sympathy. And there's a clip from Brené Brown. She talks about the power of vulnerability and empathy and connection with people. And it isn't when somebody's explaining to you about their possibly mental health or an issue within their life, we do often want to fix it straight away.
We do.
Understanding and that training how to listen, and communicate with that person non-judgmentally, and then not to put our own experiences upon them of what we would do, and to actually just sit with them in that moment and allow them to be heard. And I think we've all done it. We've all sugarcoated somebody's emotions, experience. But I think it's that sort of training and the knowledge of that it's okay to allow somebody to feel a certain way. Actually being with them in that moment is going to help them far more than you just throwing a solution their way.
Sometimes we just completely overdo it. We're so desperate to help someone that we're trying to think of all these solutions and chuck out all these things, and all you really needed to do was just sit there and be. I think it's probably an analogy for life. It's a lot of the time you're trying to do so much and you just need to be.
Maybe that links back to what we were saying earlier about being productive. We're so conditioned to be productive. I've got to fix him. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. Like you said, we are, meant to just be and sit.
Totally. It's all linked.
Just on this, we talk about obviously the subconscious mind that I'm sure our listeners are going to find really fascinating. That drives us forward, which is a recording device, and I'd like you to explain that a little bit. also, second part of that is ego is a big part of our human mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, foremost, what is this about? It's a recording device, the subconscious mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can take the subconscious mind and just the body generally. The body stores our experiences. So even if we feel like something isn't affecting us, or like you can't just decide. This is the thing where the body is different to the mind. The mind's always looking for solutions. The body just wants to experience. So when you feel anger coming on, if the mind will quickly try to shut that down, because that's what we've learned through shame. But the body holds on to that. The body's still angry. Like, it just wants to express. It's just like this bottled up energy that needs expressing. And that, I mean, that's something that I'm still learning as well. I'm still learning how to actually express that energy as we're moving along, rather than having it bottle up and then having to release it in a big thing. But I mean, at least bottling it up and releasing it at regular intervals is still a step above a lot of people who are just bottle it up forever, and never able to move beyond that. But what was the second part of your question? Sorry.
So talk about, the unconscious mind, the human mind, how it drives us forward, and the body's a recording device as well.
Yeah.
But the ego is a huge part of that, isn't it?
The ego, yes.
We're all trying to improve, but
yes,
sometimes when you want to improve, you've got to step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And the ego could possibly pull us back, because the ego, if you want to explain, it's a protective mechanism, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. The ego is a protective mechanism. It's all those learned experiences of safety. All it cares about is keeping you safe. It's not worried about you thriving. It's just safety. And if it's learned in the past, if we've had this upbringing in a culture of shame, with parents who perpetuated that shame, not intentionally, but they have, then we've learned it's unsafe to express these emotions. It's unsafe to do certain things. It's unsafe to take risks. You look at the schooling system, like damn, the whole schooling system is based on grades, and there's no space for failure. It's like, oh, if you got an A, that's good. You're going to study all this information, and then if you get an A in the exam, great. And if you get an F, then failed. And it, like, completely ignoring any practical application of that, anything that you could have actually taken from that for the real world. It's just like all the focus is on success or failure. It creates this win-lose environment, and it's life isn't win-lose. We created this society that is, I win, you lose. It's competitive. It's like, if I have something, you don't have something, and that is classic scarcity. And it's not really like that. Like, every failure, there is no failure. Failure implies, if we fail at something, that implies that there's a metric that says that something is better than something else. It implies that if we don't get what we want, that getting what we wanted was better. That making 10K in our business was better than not getting that client on board. When actually you could, by not getting that client on board, you could have learned so much more about what you're actually doing and whether you actually want. Maybe you get that client on board and you realize you don't even want to be doing this. Maybe you get some big client on board and you're like, damn, I didn't even want to be coaching this client. And it would actually have been better for you to fail and not get that client on board, and you would have learned more about what you actually wanted. So, yeah.
Enjoying the experience, like, I mean, of course, we spoke about comfort zones, or like, productivity. If we do want something, say you wanted that client, you are going to have to step forward and do something productive to get there. But then it's like, how do we balance that push and pull, and give ourselves that time to grow and time to heal? How do we be okay with whatever happens, like you were saying there?
Well, I think this is a really interesting question, and a very common idea that I come across a lot. People want to know, how can I get that balance between pushing myself and being pulled towards my goal? And it almost feels like the question is like, okay, I want to show myself this compassion so that I can move towards my goal. But at some point, I still need to shame myself, and I still need to like give myself this shove to get it done. Otherwise, I won't do it. And I don't believe that ultimately. I believe that compassion is always the answer. I don't believe in shame. Shame can work short term to get things done, but there is a long-term impact on that. And I think that we can use compassion to get things done. But if you want to get the amount done, if you want to be an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos, and you want to work 100-hour weeks, and you want to be worth $200 billion, you may not be able to get there without shame.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that's very possible. But then, is that something that you want to achieve?
Yeah.
So I think it's about actually scaling down what we're actually trying to get done, and actually asking ourselves why. Like, why do I want to get this done? Like, do I really need all of this? Because the more that you need, the more you are going to have to push yourself to be productive. And maybe we're not designed to be machines. We're not. Why do you need $200 billion? Like, why do you need to do all this stuff? Like, if you could actually be a human instead, I'm not here. If people want to get ridiculous amounts of shit done, they want to be Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, I'm the wrong coach. I'm the wrong coach for you. You will probably be more likely to make an absolute fortune working with a coach who is you're gonna show up and he's gonna be like, why haven't you done this? Don't you want it? Like, you should want it more. The upshot is that you may feel so like ashamed and embarrassed that you get more done. The downside is that you're going to feel horrible. You're going to feel terrible about yourself. So for me, the focus is on, I want you to feel good about yourself while getting things done. And when you feel good about yourself, you will get things done. Like, I don't shame myself into doing stuff. And that does mean I don't post every day on Instagram. My posts are going to be more sporadic. Like, I have way fewer posts than other people. You might be lucky to get a post out of me in a week, or maybe get two. Maybe you won't get one for a couple of weeks. But for me, I'm still there. I'm still getting people booking calls. I'm still getting clients in. I'm just not doing it at that kind of extreme level where I have to post every day. And I think there is a level where if you were able to totally get rid of the shame, where you could produce a lot, that's going to be tricky in our society because there is so much shame. But shame is definitely not a prerequisite for getting stuff done. You don't have to feel horrible about yourself to get stuff done.
Maybe some people don't even, the goals that they're setting themselves, it isn't actually their authentic self.
Yeah.
It's a wish list, isn't it?
It's a wish list, but it's not even their own wish list. It's not their own goals. People are saying that they want this and they want that, and maybe they're working towards achieving this and achieving that because they've seen somebody else do it.
Yeah.
Because they think that's what society is a successful person to be. So maybe finding your authentic self and by being your authentic self, you're going to actually find what you want.
It's a starting point, isn't it?
Totally.
And what you're saying there, guys, is I think maybe it comes back to parental expectations. You know, there's certain cultures who won't go into all of that expect them to be lawyers, mathematicians, doctors.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So that can come through at times. You know, the pressures, and you're not authentic because you're living it through your dad or your mom or
you're
going to be at the age of 10, and you're like, what? I don't want to. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, and that can really make you you're not authentic about what you do actually want in your life. You've been told almost. You know,
That's massive. That's massive. That parental pressure. There is an added shame element in a lot of cultures of this idea that family is sacred, that family is above, that blood is thicker than water. That phrase actually means the opposite of what people think it means when you expand the full phrase.
What does it
Actually, it's actually the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. So it actually means the people you choose are more important than the people you're related to. But it tends to be used as blood is thicker than water. Family is more important. Like you've got to be loyal to your family. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's important for you to put your needs first. And if your family is trying to guilt and shame you into doing things or into being loyal to them, then sometimes you need to take a break. Sometimes you need to create space or control the way you interact with them. Because if they've invalidated your emotions in the past, then and they're going to keep doing that, then you're exposing yourself. It's like having a wound and someone keeps prodding it, and you keep going back into that situation. You know they're going to prod it. You know they're going to twist your arm that's trying to recover from being broken, and it's like, why are you just aggravating the injury? So sometimes you need to be in that situation. It might be like, okay, I know you're going to prod the wound, so we can only talk from socially distanced, so you can't reach me to take the metaphor further. So maybe there's certain topics that are off the table, for example. But I bang the drum for people to actually take the space or adapt their relationships with family to be what they need it to be, because I know there's an immense amount of pressure to just let family get a free pass on gaslighting and shaming. So I'm trying to bang the drum in the other direction.
That's I think even family or friends, sometimes you need to, like you said, the environment. You know, friends and family are the environment, but it's about keeping them maybe at arm's distance. If you're not that comfortable, you know, you can you know, it can unravel everything, can't it? I suppose.
Especially when you're trying to do your own inner work or whatever, and you know that person or whoever it is that does trigger you, until you have, you know, moved past or let go of whatever it is, then unfortunately you're going to have to set that boundary.
Yeah, totally. It's not easy.
You can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. So whether that environment is the place that you live in or the family or the person, then you need to move away from that.
Exactly.
How do we find peace, you know, in the here and now? You know, how are you helping people move past that shame and to be the authentic self?
Acceptance. So there is this, where a lot of the self-help community slips up, is there's this obsession with kind of becoming this untouchable warrior who is unaffected by negativity, but also positivity, like an island. Like you're an island and you can't be affected by anyone else, and you're just like unreactive, and you just have so much self-confidence that it's just like water off a duck's back. And that doesn't allow you to be human. We're a social species. We need external validation. We need it. Having needs, being needy. The idea of being needy, like, we have needs, and it's okay to have needs. To want to get rid of those needs is a sign that we haven't had those needs met in the past. We don't trust people to meet those needs, and so we want to get rid of the needs rather than find people who can. We don't trust ourselves to find people who can meet those needs, so instead we just try to get rid of them so that we don't have to rely on other people, and that's very sad. So it comes down to acceptance of what you're experiencing. If you're angry, then you're angry. If you're sad, then you're sad. That isn't something that we need to fix. So if a client turns up to a session and they're just sad and they just want to cry, then awesome. Cry, and we'll just sit here. We can just sit here and you can cry. And if you need space, if you want me to say something, if you want to try and solve a problem or something, we can do that. But if you just want to sit there, if you want to vent, we can do that as well. Like, that is, so people don't realize how productive that can be, how like affirming, how much impact it can have on you just to be with someone who doesn't try to fix your emotion. It can feel very weird if you haven't experienced it before. You can sit there with a feeling of like you're almost waiting for them to jump in and give you advice.
Yeah.
And it feels kind of weird that they're not trying to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So finding peace is definitely about acceptance. I talk about how presence is not you have to be careful about using presence as another form of escapism. Presence isn't, okay, I need to get rid of all the thoughts in my head so that I can just focus on what's going on around me, and let's push all of that to one side. Presence is, what am I feeling right now in my body? What's actually going on? Is there tension? Am I feeling a bit uncomfortable? Like for me right now, there's a little bit of tension in my stomach. I'm here recording a podcast. I'm not going to pretend that I am completely confident and unaffected by the fact that I'm giving my opinions on a podcast. So there's a little bit of tension there. But that's okay. That doesn't need to be changed. That's not a bad thing. Like being present can be really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Being present can mean feeling that pain over your parents, or that pain over a broken relationship, or the anger at a fight you've had with a friend, or just general frustration at the way your life is going. That can be presence. Presence can be angry. Presence isn't always a serene yogi sat with just a zen. Presence isn't just zen. Presence can be angry, it can be sad, it can be happy, whatever you're feeling. So accepting that and not trying to change that, whatever that is the key.
That's brilliant. I mean, I suppose it's that old adage that rather than suppress, you've got to express.
Yeah.
It's gonna churn up inside of you. You've got to feel those emotions. The more you run from it, and I suppose it's another podcast for another time with addictions, reaching outside of ourselves, whether it's games, computer games, drugs, alcohol,
addiction's an interesting one, because at the core it's all about avoiding pain. Sometimes we get caught up on the addiction itself, and we can ignore the fact that there's something underneath that we're trying to avoid. But yeah, we won't get into addiction.
Well, this has been a fantastic podcast. Thank you so much, Henry. Just a couple of things for the listeners out there. Could you give us, 3 actionable tips they can use and utilize to maybe become or feel more authentic within themselves?
Yeah. I will give some tips. I first want to jump in and just point out how automatically we look for tips and ways to do more and fit more in. And I know we need that. We want to implement it, but I just want to draw awareness to that, because I don't want everything to be what can I take from this in order to do more, to fix and be better. So just that awareness. And that would be my first tip, is awareness. So awareness of what's going on in the body, awareness of in different situations, if you can just take a moment each day to actually be aware, or whenever you remember it, just be aware, what am I actually feeling in my body? Is there something in my chest? Is there something in my throat, in my neck, my arms? Just being aware of the body, and then in different situations, being aware of that. So you gain more awareness of how your body reacts to different situations. And the more you become aware of actually what's going on in your body, the more you'll become aware of how different situations and people affect you. Even if you're with someone that you think, I like this person, your body might be, and then you start talking to them and you notice this tension. You're like, why do I feel so? You're like, damn, I actually feel really tense. Maybe I don't feel so comfortable around this person or this situation. And that's really useful, because the brain will try to rationalize. It'll be like, nah, we've known this person 10 years. We love this person. They're great. But your body's like, no. and that's where we instead of getting into that brain battle, it's like, oh no, actually, my body doesn't like this. Something's up. And that may be something to explore there, or maybe it's maybe the body's right. And over time, as we get more used to our body's patterns, we can then react to situations without even needing to really think about it. We can just know instinctively. That's what it means to follow your gut. we don't know how to follow our gut because we don't know how to trust our gut. We're not used to trusting our bodies. We've learned that our bodies are wrong when they're sad and angry, and that needs changing. Yeah. When we stop trying to change that, we can be sad and angry. We can listen to the body. The body's like, no, we don't want to do this. And you're like, okay, we're not comfortable with this person. I'm not going to put you in that situation. So awareness. Yeah, awareness would be the big step, and then just finding what suits you. So a lot of advice is based on what appears to be the outcomes. So it's like, do this worked for me, you should do this, but we don't take into account the actual symptoms. This is where a lot of the productivity comes into it as well. A lot of the productivity techniques are, oh, you're procrastinating, use a Pomodoro, put your phone in a different room. Like, they can be useful, but they might not get to the root of the issue, which is emotions. There's something going on there that is preventing you from doing it. And when you actually dig into that, you can solve the problem long term. You can actually understand why, rather than just trying to medicate.
Yeah.
You can actually, rather than just trying to keep medicating with more pills, you can actually get to the root of the problem and actually.
I suppose like, we've been medicating like the symptoms and not the cause with, like, you know, through the medical model.
Yeah.
That it's now even into like the self-help model.
Yeah.
Like, so all we is to medicate symptoms.
Yeah.
We're trying to, you know, oh, I must do this self-help tool to feel better, or that.
Yeah.
All individuals, and we need to always get to the cause of what is the issue. And I think because we've been conditioned for so long by the medical model, even within the wellness model, we're still trying to, you know, cover things up sometimes when actually and
once again it becomes fixing. It becomes something that needs to be fixed. It's like, which pill is going to fix me? Which tip is going to be the tip? Like, I want people to, what I hope people get from my coaching is that they come in wanting to get to this certain place, and then they leave being comfortable with whichever place they're in. They don't need to, it's like, I don't want to be like, this is the last piece of the puzzle, which is like every self-help every self-help book is offering, the course and everything. I wanted you to see that you already have the pieces. You don't need any more pieces. Like, my coaching is not going to give you the missing piece. My coaching is going to help you become aware that the puzzle is fine as it is. You already got all the pieces. You don't need Ty Lopez's course. You're already good.
That's brilliant. I guess what you're saying is we've all got the power within.
Yeah.
We're just going to go a different route to find that power.
But that's been a brilliant podcast, and I appreciate you coming on. You know,
thank you very much for having me. It's been awesome.
Pleasure.
Is there anywhere people can find you?
Yes. So I'm on Instagram at Henry Malcolm _. So that's Henry MALCOLM _.
Okay, brilliant.
And I have a website, www.henrymalcolm.co.uk, and you can find out all about my coaching, and you can book a free call with me as well. I do a free 30-minute call to see if the coaching is a good fit for me and for you.
Yeah, brilliant. And I'll attach that information to the bottom in case anybody missed it. And so thank you.
It's been fantastic.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, guys.
Appreciate that.